Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the legendary Hawk Deadlock Model C OTF. Oh my goodness, this is a gorgeous knife. Now, first of all, this is a custom knife, and custom knives tend to be very expensive. This knife is no exception. It just is what it is. This knife costs a lot more to create than something like an Ultratech, despite being made out of similar materials, right? And you know, both of these knives cut, sure. The Hawk, the Deadlock, it costs a lot more to create, and it also brings some unique elements to the table. So. Don't want to get caught up in the weeds of that. It depends on your value system. If you're just looking for utilitarian quality OTF, there's plenty of stuff out there from Microtech and other great companies that will scratch that itch. But if you're somebody who's looking for a little bit more, right? You're looking for a little bit more polish. You're looking for some unique elements. Maybe you're looking for specifically the unique element that comes with the Deadlock, then you might be one of those people who's willing to pay more, right? But yeah, cost to create this item is quite high. So the end result is a higher price tag. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here. Actually, before we do that, it'd be helpful to measure the darn thing. Model C coming in at about 8.5, just shy. Nope, it's right on, 8.5 inches. Blade length, 3.5 inches. Cutting edge, 3.25. Up against the Spyderco PM2. I guess we're doing Spydercos first today. And the Spyderco Para 3, you can see here, it actually is longer than the PM2. How about up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? Definitely not quite as thick. It's tall. Well, it's close to the same height and width, I guess, whatever they handle. The same presence, right? Not in the blade, though. The blade is much more skinny. It's almost the same exact overall length as the Rat 1. Definitely longer than the Rat 2. And let's go ahead and put it up against the Ontario, the Benchmade Reptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. Yeah, longer than both, absolutely. Let's do some other, for the OTF crowd, right? Maybe for the crowd who... it actually owns the Model B. This is the Hawk Deadlock Model B. So the blade is identical in length and cutting edge, just the blade itself. They are exactly the same. Now the body, though, I noticed on the Model C is actually a little bit longer. I'm going to take this time to thank the gentleman who sent these in for me to review. And that's going to be at JB_knife collector and at Amateur Knives on Instagram. Give these guys a follow. JB sent in the Model C and Amateur Knives sent in the Model B. So very cool being able to bring you guys this comparison. Thank you very much to those gentlemen. Yes, they get their knives back. No, I don't keep this stuff. So there you go. Now, there are some other differences between these two models, and we're going to be talking about them a little bit more, but I wanted to compare them right there. How about up against, let's put it up against the Ultratech, right? Microtech Ultratech. Definitely more presence in the Model C. It definitely feels like a bigger knife. It definitely feels like a fuller knife. The Microtech Ultratech, great knife. It just feels a little skinnier, feels a little smaller. Also, there's a huge difference in feeling of action and lockout. We'll talk about that. How about up against the Microtech Combat Troodon, a bigger OTF? It's definitely not quite as big as the 9.25 inch Combat Troodon. Speaking of larger OTFs from Microtech, the Scarab 2, also substantially larger than the Model C. And the biggest OTF that I have, that's going to be the Guardian Tactical Recon 40. Yeah, it's definitely nowhere near the same size as that. So the Model C is still a full-size OTF. I'd still call it a large knife at 8.5 inches. It's just not like, it's not the same thing as some of those monster OTFs from Microtech. I'm not going to put my calipers on this blade. This is an expensive custom knife. I'm just not going to do that. I will show you guys that the at maximum thickness, it's probably about the same as the Ritter Hogue, which I know to be 125 thousandths. So that is likely the case there. Let's go ahead and do, well, also, I'm not going to do a full-on hardware check on this guy, but I will show you guys that normally I'm like, check out my tools, and I'll go ahead and plug that. You can get these tools down in the section of my description that talks about my tools. They're very inexpensive, very recommendable, so check those out. These are T6 screws, which is kind of a bummer. I really wish that they were T8, but the fact that we've got an OTF that actually has non-proprietary screws, Microtech, right? Now they're getting better about that, right? Their Scarab has the Torx heads, but it's nice that you can get into this if you want to. Sorry, I cut the video to go check online and make sure that this was correct. Yeah, the older Model B is utilizing a T8 head, and the newer Model C is utilizing a T6 head. I'm not sure why that's the case. I wish they had kept it T8, but okay, at least we have the option to get inside of it if we want to. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So we are looking at a combination of aircraft aluminum, carbon fiber, titanium for the switch, this inlay and the pocket clip, and then CPM 20 CV for the blade. Now, as newer versions of this come out, I'm sure that we'll see different versions with different materials, perhaps a little more titanium, a little less. Will they do a full, a full tie version of this? I have no idea, right? What kind of aluminum is it? If you look on their website right now, it shows that the next batch they're doing, which is not, it hasn't dropped yet, is 7075 aluminum. I would guess that that's what this is, right? Not the standard 6065 stuff that we see on other OTFs, right? What's the difference? 7075 is a bit tougher. Apparently has slightly less corrosion resistance. I don't know. I think it's, might be somewhat trivial for the vast majority of people. For some people, right, if you're really banging your knives around a lot, the 7075 might be more beneficial. I don't really know, but that's what we're looking at there. This guy definitely does weigh less than its brother, the Model B, for sure. So overall weights, we're looking at 4.55 ounces, which is still, a lot of people say that's still fairly heavy. You pick this up and it's going to feel like it weighs less than 4 ounces. I can't explain why. It's ridiculously well balanced and just feels so lightweight, especially compared, like I said, to its Model B brother in full tie, which weighs 6.5 ounces. The only people who are going to be super uncomfortable carrying this, and just in terms of the size of object, are people who are wearing athletic shorts or very, very tight pants. If you are wearing anything else, hopefully, as long as you're wearing pants, I got to be honest with you, this is really easy to carry. Just the size of the object, the weight of it, it just feels like a featherweight object for its size, despite actually weighing 4.5 ounces, which really isn't all that heavy. It's very similar to the weight of the Ritter Hogue, right? So if you like tinier knives, ultra lightweight knives like the Bug Out, might not be for you. Yeah, this is, in my opinion, even though the ratios are off a bit, and by ratios I mean the, the blade length to overall weight ratio might be a little bit off. You pick this up. If you handle this, you're going to go, that is just stupidly well balanced. So it's one of those things where the actual specs, in contrast with your senses, when you pick this up and interact with it, right, it really throws you for a loop. This really, really feels amazing. So let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of the review. So first off, the firing, the action on this guy. I've done this a couple of times here up against the Model B. They don't feel like one deploys any faster than the other, or that one is necessarily more powerful. But I think the weight and solidity of the titanium scales is just giving me a different experience. There's substantially less recoil on this because of how heavy and dense the scales are. This guy has a little bit more of a snap, and I can feel it in my arm a little bit more, probably because there's less weight here. There's less mass in the frame because it is aluminum. I don't know, but it does feel, at least if it's a false impression, right, at least it is there. This does feel a little bit better, right? It does not fire as hard as a Scarab. It does not fire as hard as the Recon 40. Those are the two hardest firing automatics, double action automatics, right? I know the Halo 6 fires harder. Thank you for telling me. But yeah, it definitely does not feel like it's firing as hard as that. But it does feel like it fires harder than an Infidel, right? The Benchmade Infidel is one of the weakest full-size automatic knives that I've ever handled. And while it has enough power to deploy most of the time, it just doesn't feel all that powerful. This definitely feels more powerful than that. But what's important here is not how powerful the action is. It's whether or not the design will allow the blade to successfully make it to the open and locked out position. This has never failed. Now, none of my Microtechs have ever failed either, but this has never failed on me, and I've been doing this type of thing a lot, and I've also done it with the Model B. And so while it might feel underpowered to some people, the chassis in this situation is allowing this thing to lock out every single time, and boy, does it lock out. If you are unfamiliar with the legend of the Deadlock OTF, well, let me share it with you. These are the only OTFs in the world that actually lock out solid. And I mean really solid. In the open position, this blade has not even a hint of blade play. But the SOG Pentagon, I have a SOG Pentagon here. It's really close, but it's not solid, right? Your Microtechs, right? They got a little bit, it's nature of the beast with these. It's not much, and it's acceptable because of the way that these locked out. Blade play on a OTF is not as worrisome as on a folder because of the way that they lock out, right? Yeah, every other OTF that I've ever handled, ever, right? I got a lot of videos, 2,200 videos. I've handled a lot of knives. Here in, somebody who lives in Kansas, I can carry and use OTFs of any size, right? So I've handled a ton of automatic knives. All of them have blade play, not the Deadlock. The Deadlock really, truthfully, has no blade play. Now, that's one of those elements that's drawing people to these, right? That's why a lot of people hear about the Deadlock. They see the price tag and they go, that's a gimmick. That's a gimmick. That's how they're getting you to spend that much money on it. That's one of the elements that makes it interesting, but it's not why they're charging $1,000 for it, right? They're a business. They're definitely in it to succeed and generate income, right? But these absolutely cost a lot more to create, you know, given that this is a two-man operation. They're only able to make these in small batches, and there's so much more time and energy that goes into this. So you're also getting this amazing level of fit and finish where the inlay work is absolutely supreme. It's perfect. We're talking about little tiny details like if you have an OTF that's dagger ground right now, right, and it's a less expensive one, look at the seam down the middle and take a look at how perfectly it comes down the tip. In this case, it is truly perfect. It's the case with both of these knives, and that seems like a silly thing, right? But it's one of those details that's, they made sure it's absolutely perfect on this, right? The aluminum looks great, seating the hardware, all that's great. The switch looks absolutely perfect. I mean, literally everything about this knife was cut to perfection. Nothing is out of place. Nothing's wonky. The way that they did the inlay, look at this. It is absolutely perfect. It is intentionally raised. The carbon fiber is raised just slightly above the aluminum behind it, and the titanium is intentionally raised just slightly above the carbon fiber that it's laid into. It is so perfect. It's just ridiculous. It's even a step up from, knives from Microtech that I also consider, basically perfect. There's little teeny tiny things like odd gap, like on the screw, you might see a slightly larger gap up here than down here. On some of the screws, like on this one, it's totally fine, right? It's pretty darn good. The switch has a little bit of play in it, not that big of a deal, right? With this guy, everything is completely and totally solid all the time. Nothing is going to move or shake or rattle. Everything is fixed into place. Now, does that mean that this offers utilitarian advantage, right? For those people who are unable to venture outside of the whole, every dollar that I spend on a cutting tool must equate to utility, which I would argue is an incorrect way of thinking, especially when we get up here. But that's just my opinion. This knife isn't going to do any better of a job at completing the task than something like this, right? Or something that costs way less, right? A Lightning OTF is $35, and it also is an OTF that deploys and you can use it to cut, right? And then you can retract it, and it's pretty reliable. Now, it's not made out of the same stuff. I would argue that longevity here, the Deadlock will absolutely outlast a Lightning. A lightning, it'll have 10 years in it, and eventually it'll die, right? It's also, the steel is not the same thing. You're going to get a lot more, in terms of edge retention from something like 20CV over the 440C that's being used on a Lightning OTF, right? So for some people, it's not going to be worth paying more than about $35 to $40 for an OTF, just because the Lightning exists. That's all the more they need from their knife. That's all the more they value. So that's going to work out for them. For other people who demands much more in a lot of other ways, right? Not just talking about utility, but we're talking about, all of the teeny tiny little elements, fit and finish, presentation, right? Edge work, right? Edge bevel, evenness or symmetry, right? Lockout. There's certain elements that are going to matter more to some people. A lot of people spending this type of money on a knife, that's the type of stuff they're looking for. They're not laboring under any delusion that they're gaining a utilitarian benefit over less expensive knives. It seems like a silly thing to have to say in videos like this, but it is helpful, I think, for some people who have just not considered that perspective. I'm somebody who appreciates this stuff, so I love that everything really is perfect on this, right? If you've ever wondered, like, it's a lot of money and I'm tempted, but is it really perfect? Yeah, it really is. This is beautiful. I will say I'm not a fan of the reflectivity of the carbon fiber. I think that's just the nature of creating an inlay that's like this. I think I wish it was a little more dull, a little more subdued. I said subdued. Subdued. I don't like it when I don't like carbon fiber that's that shiny, but it's not that offensive. It's just me being nitpicky. I love the Hawk logo, right? I love, the lines right here, or the grip texture up here. This is a super duper comfortable OTF to hold. There are nothing like the pocket clip is completely knocked down. The edges, the chamfers, right? These are all knocked down. The button itself is also really not aggressive. It's incredibly easy to deploy this thing and retract it. And you can see the button is different than the button on the Model B, which it was also very easy. There's nothing wrong with this. It doesn't take much to deploy this, and you can see here why. The button is not dragging on the scale. There's actually a gap, a tiny gap between the button and the scale, and then it's actually got there's a little pillar. It's attached underneath the inlay and the aluminum scale to the part of the chassis that allows the blade to be thrown. But the result is that it's very smooth and extremely different than the button dragging on the aluminum, as is the case with Microtech knives. Honestly, it rivals. It's extremely. If you don't know, the Guardian tactical knives are very smooth in operation because they have a steel plate and there are ball bearings under the switch. I would say this is even easier to operate than your Guardian tactical knives. It's effortless. It's so comfortable on the button, so convenient, so natural. That's the thing. My hand's interaction with this object, it's one of the most perfect experiences I've had with a knife. Even people who have never, ever handled an OTF can pick this thing up and feel like it's an extension of their hand. My mom, I handed this. I said, this is an automatic knife. And she said, I hate these because they scare her, right? Even though the ones, most of the time she can't even get them to deploy. But like this one, the Recon 40, which she actually managed to do, it just scared her to death. This is just a lot less like to people who are big time knife enthusiasts, or even if you're not a big time knife enthusiast, right? Or people who are new to knives, all different walks of life. People can pick this thing up and just, I say, slide that switch forward, and they go, oh, that's real nice. It has that kind of welcoming nature about it, right? And it's funny considering it's an OTF. Most people look at these and they automatically assume weapon, right? There's a lot of people watching this video right now going, why isn't he talking about self-defense? Obviously that's a weapon. Let me blow your mind here for a second if that's your mentality. Nowhere on Hawk's website does it say that, this was exclusively designed as a weapon. I think that people have this preconceived idea because of, media and everything like that, what a weapon looks like, and this is just, it has that. It has those characteristics, right? So people automatically assume if I'm going to do a video on this, I have to talk about, is it advantageous in an offensive or defensive scenario? I don't care, because that's not what I talk about on this channel, and that wasn't the design philosophy behind this knife. Can it be used that way? Sure. So can a rolling pin. In fact, in most situations, I'd be way more afraid of a rolling pin than something like this, right? So that's not something that I discuss at all, because that's not my world. It's not something that I've found I have to consider often or truthfully at all, right? So if it comes down to it, right? If it comes down to a scenario, a 1 in a million scenario, having pretty much anything could be beneficial, but it could also, this is my true mentality on this, I don't know why I'm telling you guys, also having an object like this on your person puts you at risk, right? So it's like, do I really want to split hairs and dissect that? No, I don't. And I also don't care to, discuss it at all. This is simply a beautiful utilitarian object that is very durable, very capable, and I appreciate it for those elements and those elements alone. The blade is absolutely perfect. I would not change a single thing about the blade. These are double-edged and these are stone-washed versus this guy. I think they made different versions of it, but this guy is a bead-blasted blade. I prefer the stone-washed blade way over the bead blasted one. I think this is great. It's plenty sharp and it is hollow ground, but you don't have a lot of room between the center, the thickest part of the blade, and down to the edge. So will it cut? Will it slice? Yes. Can you do it continuously? I mean, like, this is a comfortable enough knife and the geometry is good enough that, yeah, if you had nothing else, this will do it, right? You can work this thing all day and it's going to be just fine. A lot of people think that OTFs, for some reason, their locks aren't very strong. I would invite you to go watch Advanced Knife Bros video on this guy where he absolutely kicks the beans out of it. Or X-Ring where he demonstrates, exactly how durable the lock is on something like a Combat Troodon. It might kind of blow your mind. OTFs are substantially more durable and more utilitarian than people might think. I'd also argue, I've said this many times, I think they're actually safer than regular folding knives. I mean, from pulling the knife out of your pocket to deploying it, using it, and retracting it, I think you're less likely in those few simple movements to accidentally harm yourself than with a folding knife. Folding knife, no matter how you're, even with two hands, you're still having to pay attention, as far as where your hands are to keep them out of the blade path, right? I've handled so many knives and been in this hobby for so long. The number of accidental cuts that have occurred with knives, it's quite a bit. It's amounted to, it's like handling all this stuff. Yeah, I'm putting myself in a scenario where I'm just more likely to accidentally get cut. I would say almost every circumstance has been with a folding knife. An OTF, I can't remember a time I've accidentally cut myself because my fingers never come anywhere close to the blade, right? And even if they did, there's not enough power here for it to really do any major damage. I mean, it'll do that thing where it's not derails, but here, we can demonstrate here real quick, right? So the blade does this and it comes off the track and it just needs to be reset, right? And then you're good to go. And I think that's a great feature. I don't want it to have so much power that it has the ability to put a hole in your hand. No. Why would I want that, right? I just want it to have enough power to get to the locking position conveniently and then lock out hard. Now, the drawback with an OTF is that if you get enough debris in this hole right here, it's probably not going to fire, which is something that you do not have to worry about with a folding knife. So it's circumstantial, right? It depends on where you're going to be carrying the knife and what you're going to be doing with the knife. In most scenarios, I mean, it's going to take a lot. You're going to have to basically fill this up or drop a substantial amount of dirt or sand in there to get that to happen. Most of the time, pocket lint is not enough, despite what you might hear. Pocket lint is not enough to really slow the blade down, right? It's going to power through most of that. It's going to be real like dirt or sand it's really going to slow it down. Anyways, yeah, fit and finish, just fantastic. Inlay work, fantastic. Everything looks great. You can see right here, we are looking at, it says Model C. There's the patent number, 20CV. It's not in an offensive place on the knife, and it's pretty, you know, there's not much going on. You really do get to just kind of enjoy the aesthetic of the knife. This has that pocket clip, again, that's really cool. You can just sort of pinch it, and it lifts up. It's kind of like a teeter-totter. So you can, it's easy to get this thing into your pants with one hand. You can lift that. It'll rise over a really thick pocket seam if it needs to. Now, the issue here is that it's almost what I'd consider shallow carry. That's how much of the knife that is going to be sticking up out of your pocket. I wish that there was a way to have this exact, because this pocket clip is so cool, right? I wish that there was a way to have this pocket clip, but have it carry about right there. And I don't know that that's really going to be possible, considering you need a decent amount of leverage to get this thing to pop up. He would have to move the whole pocket clip up and have this kind of sticking, and that would look funny. So I think it's just kind of nature of the beast. I think I'd take that carry depth just to have that pocket clip, and it's not bad. It's not the most offensive thing in the world. It's just, it's approaching what I call a shallow carry knife. Not that big of a deal. It does hold on really well. Part of the reason I don't like shallow carry knives is I've had situations where they kind of peek up or want to kind of almost fall out of the pocket, right? So this is going to pinch so hard on your pocket once you've got that thing down, there's no way. You'd have to be like, you know, hanging upside down trying to get this thing to fall out of your pocket to even get it to budge. It's not going to happen, right? I also like that the area underneath is smooth, and it's not carbon fiber. It's right on the aluminum, right? So that's kind of nice. I like this little piece of titanium right here. I think that it looks nice, and it's also got some texture to it. So when you are gripping it, right, like this, you get a little grip area. Or when you're gripping it like this, you also have a place where your index finger and middle finger can kind of grab. This is just so comfortable. I can't emphasize this enough. This is the most comfortable OTF that I have ever handled. And it's, honestly, the ergonomics on it are just good in general, right? Even if we're comparing against some of the most ergonomic knives, folding knives, what have you, right? This is one of the most comfortable knives that I have ever handled. It's got a nice guard. It's got all these curvatures and lines are in the right place. And it's also really just, it's very easy on the eyes. It's a very inoffensive thing to look at. It's always nice when you can get that type of, in this case, perfect symmetry, right? And lefties, by the way, you can enjoy this because your experience will be identical to a right-handed person, right? You're going to put this in your left pocket like this. You're going to pull it, and you're going to deploy it with your thumb on the inside, right? Just for the example here. Right-handed people, you're going to pull it from your pocket. Thumb is on the inside, right? It's symmetrical in that way. But anyways, you're getting symmetry. You're getting, in my opinion, now this might be, you know, depends on, it's eye of the beholder. To me, just beauty in the lines. And it's also comfortable because of the way that they knock down the edges on everything. A lot of people are going to look at this, we're at 30 minutes now, and they're going to say, my issue with it is that the blade is so skinny compared to the handle, and there's also a lot of handle compared to the blade. I guess I can understand that. That's never really bothered me though, right? The skinniness of the blade. And if you think about it, you know, to get the lines that they want, and then the blade has to go all the way into the handle, that's just what they're working with. Something that I like is that the blade comes out of the middle, the exact middle of the knife, whereas a lot of Microtech knives and other OTFs, it comes out of, it kind of favors one side, right? That's the case with all of these. Same with the Guardian Tactical, it's favoring one side. The Ultratech and the Combat Troodon are the same way. So I don't know what it is about how Hawk does these, but they come straight out of the middle of the knife, and it just looks nice. I like it. Yeah, Lockout, completely and totally solid. Everything's great. The tip of the blade is nowhere near the top. That's the nice thing about the handle being so long and the blade being shorter than you might prefer. The tip is nowhere near that. Those of you who have Guardian Tactical Recon 35s right now, you got dagger ground blade. Look how close the tip of it is to the exit hole. Yikes, it's way too close, right? Knives like this, you can see where that tip is. Look how close it is. I can touch it. You don't want to be able to touch it. Same with the Scarab's not quite as bad. Can we see it in there? Yeah, right there. I can touch it, but I got to dig a little bit, right? that sucker's buried in there. You're not going to accidentally touch that. And the tip's going to be down anyway. Okay, so as far as an OTF design goes, there is absolutely nothing I would change about this. This is, in my book, a perfect OTF design. Before this, my favorite OTF in existence was the Microtech Direct Delta, which I have no idea why they discontinued that, right? It's just an excellent design. There's a lot of the same, for a lot of the same reasons I enjoy this knife, but this is just better. Switch is better. It locks out completely and totally solid. Better balance, better size, right? I like the pocket clip better. The only thing that I don't like is the carry depth. I don't like it as much. It's like a B+ kind of situation. Everything about this knife is A+, and then the pocket clip depth, for me, I'm like, it's a B+. And then the carbon fiber is kind of, it's a little bit too shiny for me, but it's not like you have to get, in the future, they'll have different inlay materials, right? The biggest issue with this knife is the price and the availability. Now, I'm not saying the price isn't fair. In fact, I'm shocked that the base price on this guy is only $1,000. Yes, you heard me correctly. $1,000 for a pocket knife. Yeah, considering the caliber that this is in, the amount of time and energy that goes into it, right? The uniqueness of this. The Hawk Deadlock stands alone in terms of what it is. There are no other OTFs out there that are absolutely solid. And every time I say that, I got at least one guy in the comment section saying, my whatever doesn't have any blade play. I don't believe you, and neither should anybody else. I've never handled anything that actually has no blade play. But on top of that, it's just the machining excellence, the final product, the final delivery. These things are so ridiculously perfect. I've just never handled an OTF. In fact, I've handled very few knives in existence that have this level of quality. A lot of you guys know my favorite knives of all time are made by Brian Nadeau from Sharp by Design. Outside of Brian Nadeau, there's really not a whole lot I've experienced where I look at it and go, it's actually machined perfectly. This is on the same level, but in the OTF world, right? This is the Sharp by Design of OTFs in terms of manufacturing perfection, or, it's not that this entire knife is machine made. Some elements certainly are, but it's just the level of perfection is just out of this world. It's fantastic. So for what they set out to do, right, as far as OTF designs go, this is the best OTF design that I have ever handled, hands down. No competition. There's no OTF on the market that I've ever handled that is designed as well as this. This is perfect. The problem is that, yeah, it's going to cost you $1,000 and a lot of patience to get your hands on one. It's just going to be the case. And the fact is that the vast majority of people are not going to be willing to spend that type of money, right? And I know that, speaking of the vast majority of people, right, almost nobody made it to the end of this video. And my YouTube analytics always tell me most people have dropped off, right? So many people have given up on the video and they just went ahead and left their comment down below saying, no, most people aren't going to want to buy this. So why are you even showing it? Enough people want to buy it that it's in incredibly high demand and sold out. Like the moment that these drop, if they're available, they are purchased right away, right? So no, these are not for everybody. Most people are not going to drop $1,000 on a knife. But for those of you who do spend that kind of money on a knife, this is $1,000 well spent. And I don't say that very often. There's not a lot of knives that I can go, if you're going to spend $1,000 on a knife, this is the way to go. Because it gets hard to say that. It's like, can I really confidently tell people, I can say this, if you like OTFs and you have $1,000 budget to spend on a knife, there is no better OTF out there to spend that type of money on. And even if you're not like, well, it's not specifically OTFs, like I'd look at other knives. Generally speaking, this is a good use of $1,000 if you're going to do that with a knife, right? So this is going to go in two playlists. It's going to go in my custom knives playlist, and it's going to go in my favorite knives of all time playlist. I can't put it in my recommended knives playlist because I just can't openly recommend $1,000 knife to everybody. It just doesn't make sense. It's just not going to be for everybody, right? But for those people who are going to spend that type of money, yes. Also, this is absolutely one of the greatest things out of 2021. So this is officially on the top 10 of 2021. This is I mean, this is just wonderful. This is a super long review. I knew it was going to be, but it's one of the most perfect things that I've ever handled. It really is. It's that great. This is just wonderful. All right. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it today. Where did my little card go? I guess I'm going to use the time. Oh, there it is. Thanks again to the gentleman who sent these in for review. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex. So go right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.